It's Dr. Cassie Smith, and welcome to Back to the Basics, a simple approach to health in the modern world. I appreciate you taking the time to join me today and hopefully learn ways that could help you improve your health. The modern world has left little time to focus on health and wellness. I hope to give you some quick and simple ways to be well and live your best life. Welcome back to this week's episode of Back to the Basics. I'm your host, Dr. Cassie Smith. I'm a functional endocrinologist. Today, I'm talking to Warren Phillips. He's known as the Nontoxic Dad, and we're going to talk to you about all things toxic. Chemicals. He's going to talk to us about these forever chemicals in watches. We're going to talk about cleaning supplies. We're going to talk about your water. We're going to have tons of insight on maybe some foods that are toxic and just different things you can do to avoid toxins. So Warren Phillips, MS, is the visionary force behind Nontoxic Dad, a revolutionary movement aimed at transforming lives through non-toxic health practices. Confronting his own battles with fibromyalgia, anxiety, weight gain, insomnia, and a myriad of health obstacles, Warren refused to succumb. His journey led him to explore alternative methods like heavy metal detoxification, dietary adjustments, and cellular support, resulting in his own profound restoration. Fueled by his transformation, Warren now guides himself with mindful attention to the 5 primary methods of toxic exposure: consumption, inhalation, absorption, frequencies, and mindset. Working towards a toxic-free lifestyle for himself and his family, he has discovered a path forward and now empowers others to do the same. Warren has emerged as a beacon of hope and empowerment for those navigating similar adversities, inspiring positive change in countless lives. Warren is dedicated to educating the public about low toxic living. Together with New York Times bestselling author Dr. Pedram Shojai, they're spearheading the docuseries Home Sick Home, uncovering the hidden toxins in homes and promoting healthier living alternatives. So thank you for joining me today. I want to start with this, stuff that just kind of came out. I know you posted about it. It kind of went viral, but there are these forever chemicals now in Nike watches and Fitbit watches, and so I know that lots of people use like tracking devices to track their health, but some of these could be hurting them. So tell us about that.
Yeah, Apple Watches, Fitbit, Google Watches, like these bands, they're made of fluoroelastomers. And Notre Dame just did a study on it, and it was really shocking because the levels of PFAS, forever chemicals, just like in a Teflon pan, and they put them in there, makes the bands more expensive. We think they're just silicone bands, but they're not. They're these fluoroelastomer bands, and that fluoro means they're 100% loaded with forever chemicals. Not just small amounts, but high levels of forever chemicals. And if you think about that, this is a very thin skin area, so it's one of the more higher absorbing areas. It's something you may be wearing 24 hours a day. It's almost like doing a dermal, what do you call it, those little patches that you put on for medications. To have dermal absorption, skin absorption, and it's something that's on there all, for many of us, 14 hours a day, a Fitbit. And the reason they do this, it's the most expensive band because it's not just silicone. It's a very expensive band. It's a fluoroelastomer, and it's loaded with forever chemicals, much higher than all other consumer products, directly on your skin. Notre Dame did the study. They tested 22 different bands. 15 of them contained high levels of these forever chemicals or PFAS. So just, they put it on there. It's like, to keep it clean and you're not sweating and dirt won't get embedded. And so it's like another one of these conveniences that are literally poisoning us on the daily. And those are the things we really need to avoid, is because of things that we use on the daily, like our Apple Watch. And if you go to the Amazon or the Apple store, it'll say made of fluoroelastomer. So anything made of a fluoroelastomer, you're pretty much screwed. It's going to be loaded with forever chemicals. These things do need to be banned, and no pun intended. But you can get stainless steel ones. They're out there. You can go on Amazon and get ones that are stainless steel. You could get quote unquote 100% silicone. I don't trust that either because silicone has siloxanes in it. So if that watch band got hot enough, you're definitely going to be leaching siloxanes, which are carcinogenic. So again, the further we get away from non-natural materials and these synthetic materials, or the synthetic materials we're told that are safe and inert like silicone, which it's not, especially for cooking, it's definitely releasing siloxanes into your food. I think the temperature is only 180 degrees, and they have significant levels of siloxanes leaching from silicone cookware. So that's not very high temperature. And they say that it's safe, but it's not. So these are some of the things, these modern conveniences, our watches, these plastics. We got to get back to natural materials. They're obviously poisoning us.
So you said what type of band should you be looking for then?
Yeah, you can get stainless steel, which is not as comfortable. I get it. A stainless steel watch band, but you can get rid of your Apple Watch band, which is made of fluoroelastomer, and replace it online. Just do Apple Watch band stainless steel, and there's a couple different companies making them in different colors. They make them in black and white and stainless. And then at worst case, I would much rather have a 100% silicone band that doesn't have the embedded forever chemicals. So you need to avoid those fluoroelastomer bands. Fluoro means forever chemicals, essentially, the fluorine.
So what about like the Aura rings? Do these have things in them as well?
Well, they're made of metal, so they should be fine. Yeah. So, but any type of Fitbits, these smartwatches, most of the smartwatches and most of the
Apple type watches.
Yeah, the fit watches, like for fitness watches, Apple watches, anything that's used on the daily, they have this high quality fluoroelastomer band, which is poisoning you. So a cheap silicone band would probably be better, but it's not perfect. And if you want to go away from that, I would do the stainless steel if you want to have the 100% non-toxic version. And I think on the back of Apple watches, it's stainless steel, or it used to be. So you could drop it in and then you'd have all stainless steel. I mean, I don't wear Apple Watch or anything like that. So, but this is a junky one that was on my kids. So they can see this. This is just a junky one. I thought this was 100% silicone, but I don't know. So now I need to look into it because my kids don't have smartwatches. They just have these little regular watches that had like a step tracker on them. No Wi-Fi, none of that. Because that's a whole nother, challenge when you're having a phone that has radio frequency and just right on your body, which frequencies aren't good for you, right? It's another stressor.
Okay. So that is
so happy this morning, talking about these.
I mean, that is alarming though. So why do they do that? I guess because it is comfortable and that's how you can wear it. But to me, it makes like if it's more expensive and it's toxic, then why are we doing that? Why are we not just doing silicone? Why are we not, doing something different?
The band doesn't get stinky. It lasts longer. Your oils on your hand don't embed into the silicone. Those oils start degrading the rubber or the silicone. It just kind of protects the band. So it just lasts longer and looks better longer. So it's like a Teflon pan. Well, Teflon comes from, I think its origination was tanks. It was used in warfare with tanks, a protective coating on tanks or something like that. Again, don't quote me on that, but it had something to do with military. And it protects things, right? It's meant to protect. And then we decided, this would be great to put into pans because it's non-stick. So essentially you're putting a non-stick watch band where it protects you from sweat and oils penetrating into the watch band and ruining the watch band, making it stinky, degrading it. So it's this high quality watch band that's literally has super high levels of these forever chemicals, which cause liver damage, kidney damage, cancer, reproductive harm. It's forever chemicals and they're hard to get rid of. So if they're hard to get rid of the environment, they're hard to get rid of inside of your body. They don't break down. They stick around forever. So they bioaccumulate in our body. They bioaccumulate in the environment. And again, it's these, we've gone pretty far away from nature, that to say the least.
Which makes sense though, right? Like that never made sense to me. If you have a watch band that like doesn't get stinky, you don't have to wash it, you never have to take it off, and it's not like gross, there's probably a problem with that, right? Like somehow something is, so that makes sense. But I do, to your point, think that people need to understand that because I know a ton of people in the health and industry world who wear these devices because they want to track their fitness, or they want to track their steps, or they want to track their sleep, and they have no idea, if they knew that, they probably wouldn't be wearing this. And so the other thing is, after this podcast airs, I think it will be funny if you follow me or you follow Warren on social media. We want to see your pictures of your white wrists, because you're no longer wearing your bands, right? Or your watches. Because when people don't wear them, like my nurse practitioner Summer forgot hers the other day, her wrist was so white because she has that thing on all the time. It was alarming, but this is something people definitely need to know. So to recap, if you're wearing these watches, so Apple watches, Garmin watches, any of these watches, they have these forever plastics in them. And if you want to do something better, you can always Google silicone band watch for your Apple Watch. But the best thing to do would be to get a stainless steel band.
Yeah, 100% silicone, because the silicone could have a thing. So just make sure it's 100% silicone. But I would, it's possible, right? So to find, I saw some 100% silicone as well. So I did some research on it. So everyone needs a solution. So what do I do? Thanks for scaring the hell out of me. High levels of forever chemicals and my fluoroelastomer watch band that's, $80 or $50, and it's literally poisoning you through your skin. Like, thank you for this convenience and poisoning me. Yeah, it's sad.
Okay, so now that we know about watch bands, I want to talk to you about home cleaners, because I know you posted and were telling me about Fabulosa, the Fabulosa cleaner, and how it was causing issues with Pseudomonas. And so I have this conversation with people all the time, and my cleaning lady and she thinks I'm crazy, but we have taken...
Wait, let's stop right there, Cassie. We are crazy, so...
Yeah. We're not crazy. I have taken all the chemicals out of my house, and I use very simple things to clean, like alcohol and vinegar, like you were talking about. So tell everyone about the bad cleaners and just in general what you should be doing to clean your house.
Yeah, we'll get into Fabuloso. And Fabuloso, I've had a hate relationship with Fabuloso because I lived in Florida for a while, and everywhere in Florida, they use Fabuloso. It has super strong fragrance. It even brags about it on the label. It says cleans your living environment with a 24-hour scent, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't clean with scent, by the way. That covers, and there's no cleaning there. And so, I'll just go down the Fabuloso route. So about 2 years ago, they had and I find this funny and scary at the same time. They recalled, I think 4.9 million bottles of Fabuloso. They forgot to put enough of a preservative in it, and this Pseudomonas bacteria grew. And Pseudomonas, especially if you're immune compromised, which you would know, it is deadly to immune compromised individuals. And it's Pseudomonas, this Pseudomonas bacteria, it has to be a specific strain, but they had this really toxic strain of Pseudomonas, and it gets inside your body. You can inhale it through the Fabuloso. So literally just cleaning with it, you can inhale it. Obviously, if you have an open cut, and then it can get in through your eye gate. So Pseudomonas, super toxic. They recalled all this, but people still have Fabuloso sitting around. They sell you these massive jugs of it, and Fabuloso is poisoning you. But then you look on all the ingredients of it. It has so much fragrance in it. It has antibacterials in it, which is funny. It has an antibacterial in it, and Pseudomonas is growing. And my supposition is vinegar trashes bacteria. And my supposition would be, if I'm looking at it based on the science, you have a jug of vinegar. Do they have to put a preservative in it to stop Pseudomonas and bacteria growing in it? Do they have to put a preservative? No. But we have all these cleaners that are more fragrance-based that have toxic antibacterials in them that are killing the good bacteria in your body, not just the bad, like quaternary, they call them quats, quaternary compounds. Those are super toxic, and they build up on your home, and they're carcinogenic. So a lot of these antibacterial cleaners have these quats compounds that are toxic, so now you're wiping out your microbiome in your home. If you're not wearing gloves, you're wiping out the microbiome on your skin, essentially putting antibiotics on your body, killing everything in your home, which is what leads to these superbugs and all these problems that we have. So Fabuloso isn't fabulous at all. It's super toxic, and you have all these cleaners. You're spending all this money. You're being sold on scents that are engineered to create a dopamine response in the healthy, and put other and for many of us, I think it's like up to 15% of the population is allergic to these fragrances now. And so you don't realize why you can't think. You have a headache, you're short with your children, you have anxiety. These could be the fragrances in your home. So getting rid of all fragrances, whether it's in your laundry detergent, there's so many simple, your Fabuloso, your spraying Febreze, your Glade plugins, these things are absolute poison to your body. I have multiple stories of people who had birds in their home that stopped singing. You get rid of the air freshener, the birds start singing again, right? They put them in, obviously car air fresheners. I have a 12 million plus video that went viral because I literally did this. I'd go in and rip down when the Uber drivers weren't watching. If back in the day, or if I'm in a bus and I was going somewhere, I would grab them or I would throw them out. And I mean, because they're just, I personally can't handle them. They do trigger these headaches, asthma, allergies, all these things. They're just absolute poison. And these cleaning products, like you said, vinegar is going to do most of your home. You might need a little bit of alcohol. You can get 100% non-toxic, unscented soaps for your laundry, so you're not smelling toxins all day. You're not putting the toxic brighteners in your clothes. Your, brighteners, and then they also put some companies put like a little bit of like forever chemicals inside of that, so that dirt doesn't stick as much to the clothes. I mean, to give it a soft feel, right? All those things that we think that we need are poisoning us. These conveniences, these add-ons, these things that were being sold that we think are important. The commercials are selling moms on, oh, your kid's clothes are bright, you must be a good mom. They're selling you on emotional things that matter zero to your life, zero to your children's health, zero to our future.
Yeah, I would agree. If you think about it, for thousands of years, people washed their clothes in rivers, right? With maybe not even soap, probably salt, right? Like salt and whatever they had. So I would agree. Yep. And I was one of those people where I used to come home and like, if my house didn't smell like lemon or like this toxic chemical, I'd be like, oh, my house is so dirty. But then like I said, we started using vinegar and just sometimes I'll use Branch Basics, which is basically just vinegar. You add different amounts of water. But I love it. I think I feel better. And then also the thing I worry about was like my dog, right? So you're using all this stuff on your floor, like putting all this toxic stuff on your floor. And although I don't necessarily walk around barefoot all the time, your animals do, or your children do, right? And your animals are way like smaller than you are. And so if they get all these toxic fumes in their paws, then they're not going to feel good. And I actually, like, our dog was having this issue where she was like licking her paws all the time and having like her paws were like itchy, and we took her to the doctor and they were like, I don't know, maybe she's got allergies, give her Benadryl. It didn't really work. And then when we stopped using all the toxic stuff on our floor, she stopped licking her paws. So there's that. So then I felt like a really bad dog mom. Yeah.
No, but people won't do it for themselves, but they'll do it for their dogs and their children. So it's really important. They are smaller little vessels, like you said. They're more sensitive. Their nose is more sensitive. That's why you got to feed them right. You gotta take care of them.
Mm-hmm. So transitioning from home cleaners then, and you were kind of talking about all these toxins and preservatives and things like that. I want to talk to you about water. Well, actually, let's talk about microplastics first. So that kind of goes with this, the toxic chemical type stuff. Tell people, what are microplastics? Start with that. What are microplastics?
Microplastics is the degradation of all the plastics in our environment, right? And on the weekly, you are ingesting about 1 credit card a week. You're doing about 50% just breathing, right? So in a clean air environment, we're not talking a polluted air, or an urban environment, but clean air. No matter where you live, if you live in the woods, you're likely about half a credit card a week. Now, you add the food where the microplastics are embedded because it's in our environment, right? It's in our food, it's in our proteins, it's in the plants, right? It's in everything. If you add the eating and it's in our water supply, it's in tons in bottled water, obviously. It can release from your tea bags because they're using microplastic tea bags made of plastic, which release, millions of microplastics into your tea. So you add that up, you're about a credit card a week now. So that's 4 credit cards worth of microplastic a month. Think about that. That's super scary. And microplastics, in my opinion, is going to be one of the biggest links to disease in the next 4 to 8 years in the literature, because the literature that has just come out, I think it's related to a tenfold increase in neurodegenerative conditions. They find much higher levels of microplastics in your brain in demented patients, like a tenfold increase of microplastics in the demented patients. So it's a link to that. And it's just starting, because this is like the first studies. They see the same thing, tenfold increase in, linked to a tenfold increase in heart attacks. The individuals that had a heart attack had much higher, like extremely, I don't know the exact number, but a significant, like 10, 100-fold the amount of microplastics embedded in their heart tissue, right? So we know that it's causing it's a foreign object, so it's going to cause inflammation and disease. It's going to cause cellular dysfunction. It's going to cause mitochondrial dysfunction. It's obviously causing endocrine dysfunction, because those microplastics contain the chemicals that they use to make the microplastics, which is plastics put in phthalates, one of the probably the number one hormone disruptor for male and female endocrine parts, right? That's why it's linked to lower testosterone in men and infertility in women, amongst other endocrine disrupting problems, right? Not just that, but, thyroid, and you can go on and on. And so these microplastics are carrying these chemicals, and your body can break down a little bit of these microplastics. We have bacteria that can chew on them, right? And I think if we keep being exposed to microplastics through evolution or the process, we'll start building up more and more bacteria that can literally eat these microplastics, because you can train bacteria to do stuff. You can do it in a lab really quickly. In humans, it's going to take, we might all be dead by then, but we have to get rid of these microplastics. And it's not just heart, it's not just brain, it's also in our guts. They're finding, high levels. They're finding them in male testicles. And if you're in the male testicles, it's lowering testosterone, right? So, and they're finding them, and you're wearing plastic underwear, right? You're wearing polyester, literally wrapping yourself in plastic. Polyester is plastic with just a bunch more chemicals in it. Unsafe, unhealthy for your body, and you're literally putting on these plastics. Then you wash your clothes, then you put them in your dryer, and you have microplastic dust all over your home. It's always shedding. Your dogs, you're polluting your home with all that dust. You can't vacuum it all up. My wife vacuums constantly, but you just produce more and more dust, right? It's coming in and collecting on your floors. Your kids are licking it. Your dog is licking it, because they're picking up stuff, putting them in their mouths. So these microplastics are linked to all these conditions already, showing massive increase. Right now, up to tenfold increase. That's not small. That's not like, it's doubling your chance of a heart attack. If you're getting exposed to high levels of microplastics, and many of us are, depending on where we live, we don't have home filters, depending on our jobs, depending on the type of clothes, man, tenfold increase potentially in heart attacks. So as more and more of these studies come out, and I know it's because there's blood tests now that are testing for microplastics, so that you can order as a medical professional, right? So this is becoming very, very mainstream. It's very dangerous, and that's why we don't need to eliminate as many plastics from our life, because the reality is, right? Think about it. When I buy my grass-fed, organic, free-range, regenerative meat from Sprouts or wherever I, get it from a really good, small supplier, guess what it's wrapped in?
Plastic.
Frickin' plastic, right? So unless I go to the butcher, again, you have to go live on a farm. I get it. So you have to minimize these amounts of your microplastic exposure by switching out your clothes, by switching out your socks, by switching out the freaking polyester hat that no one ever thinks about on the second most absorbable area in your body, which is your brow, next to your loins, right? It's your brow. And you absorb tons of toxins through this area. Where are those microplastics going to go? Your hot, sweaty area with your microplastic hat on, and it's just absorbing these into your body, probably where you're getting your brain exposure. Same thing with our socks. I bought my wool socks. They're 40% wool, maybe at best 50%. The rest is nylon and polyester. And And socks, a lot of them have those forever chemicals in them, which absorb through your feet. And forever chemicals are neurotoxins as well. And you have all these nerve endings in your feet. Think about Reiki, right? Or Reiki. Maybe I said that wrong. I'm not in. I don't know those arts very well. So so you literally could be poisoning your neurological system with these forever chemicals on top of the microplastics, on top of the phthalates, and all these other plasticizers that are loaded into those socks. And it's really hard to find these things. But when I got sick, now 20 years ago, you couldn't find a gluten-free cracker, right? So trust me, as we demand more of these products, there's going to be a lot of 100% or 98% wool socks with 2% elastane, right? Because I have 100% wool socks. They do fall down a little bit. I wear them anyway. It's no big deal. But, some people don't like that inconvenience of your sock falling down a little bit, right? But I buy 100% dyed with natural things socks out of Europe somewhere. I'm not sure where I got them. A little bit pricey, but, I got to be congruent, So, and you can buy a few pair that are less than 10%. In a local like REI, they have like 1 pair or 2 pair wool socks that are only like 90% natural and 10% synthetic. That's where I would do the cutoff out of convenience.
So we need to be wearing wool. Can we wear cotton?
Yeah, 100% cotton's great too.
Cotton?
Yeah. There's great cotton. There's great cotton socks out there. There's hemp socks. There's lots of different natural materials out there.
But no nylon, no polyester.
No nylon, no polyester, no, it's all plastic.
So I'm just sitting here thinking like most workout attire, right? Like Lululemon, anything you work out in is probably going to have nylon and polyester, right? Because it's stretchy. And then you're all sweaty. So that's just seeping right into you, huh?
Yeah, right into your endocrine, number one area of endocrine disruption and absorption, which is
your ovaries. Okay, great.
There's a lawsuit out there against Lululemon because they're not disclosing the amount of BPA, which is a plasticizer. Everybody knows BPA is toxic. BPA-free bottles. Well, they don't have BPA-free clothing, which is worse. You're getting a much lower exposure in a plastic bottle than you are from your workout clothes. And then if you want a big exposure of BPA, touch your receipt. If you touch your receipt and mess with it, it's like drinking out of a BPA water bottle for a year. The amount of BPA that's on the front side of the receipt. So it's significant amounts. So we're not talking small amounts. Like the BPA you would get from your plastic water bottle, not that big of a deal. Microplastics, big deal, right? I would say in a plastic water bottle, BPA, very, very low level of exposure. Your clothes, much higher. Front of a receipt, super high exposure of hormone disrupting chemical BPA. I think everyone knows that. But BPA can be replaced with bisphenol S, BPS. So your bottle could be BPA free, or your pants or plastic shirt is BPA free, but it's not BPS free. They just put a different chemical. So you just got to get rid of these. Slowly integrate getting these products out. And there's a lot of sexy brands out there that are mostly non-toxic using natural materials and organic materials. It is massive. 5 years ago, didn't exist. You couldn't find a pair of workout pants that would fit, would look nice, they'd fall off, they'd look like crap. Now there's some really nice ones out there. I don't remember the name at this moment. We can put them in the show notes, but my wife and children do because that's what they wear.
So then also microplastics, you're talking about water bottles as well, right? So we should not be drinking out of plastic water bottles. We should be doing aluminum or glass. Is that correct?
I would do stainless steel. Yeah. Glass or stainless. The aluminum ones right in the store, they just have a plastic liner. So believe it or not, 5 years ago, I thought when I was drinking out of aluminum can that I was not drinking out of plastic for exposure. In the environmental side, more microplastics. Oh, I buy the aluminum can, but they're lined, right? And that's why when you buy a can of beans, it says BPA free. The can's BPA free. Well, why was it BPA free? What's BPA in? Plastic. So to protect the tin can, there's a coating of plastic on the inside of that can. So, you're still getting plastic and microplastic exposure. BPA free lined can, but it still probably has BPS or some other chemical, right? So BPA became just a big marketing push because everyone was scared of it because it was a massive endocrine disruptor, and everyone was having thyroid problems and all these epidemics. Probably why, I think, didn't you have a thyroid challenge and that you had to work through? And so I think everybody on this planet has a thyroid issue right now, some low level thyroid issue, including myself, right? When I was sick, I couldn't take a hot shower because I couldn't adapt to the stress of the heat. Like I had massive thyroid problems. I had to get on natural thyroid for a while to help balance me out. So I got it compounded and did it the old non-toxic way. If you want to switch, you need to go, like you said, stainless steel, glass bottles, get an RO system in your home. It's going to save you lots of money because you're spending, I guess you can buy it in bulk at Kirkland. I'm doing a study right now and I tested 38 different water bottles for toxins. I want to see. I didn't do microplastics because we already know that could be millions of microplastics released. One of the other challenges with plastic water bottles, in addition to the microplastics, in addition to a lot of the water just being city water that's ran through an RO system that they're charging you $1.50 a bottle for, right, is that they use PET plastic, the number one plastic. And studies clearly show, and nobody's talking about this, no one seems to care. My video did not go viral. They don't understand this. But antimony, like lead, like mercury, you're worried about lead, throwing your hands up in the air about lead, throwing your hands up in the air about mercury, and you should. Right in that same category, antimony. It has no biological function, and it's leaching out at room temperature because they use it as a catalyst in the making of PET plastic, polyethylene terephthalate. Phthalate, here we go again, right? Hormone disruptor, phthalate, in the name of the plastic, also leaching 100% into the water that you're buying. So you're buying a bottled water thinking it's safe from a spring. It's going to have phthalates in it, going to have microplastic in it, and it's going to have elevated antimony in it. And listen to this, and that's just sitting at room temperature. If that's sitting in the back of a truck being transported or outside in the sun, studies show if it's heated too long, about this between, I think it's 140 degrees Fahrenheit, which can easily happen sitting in the back of a hot truck, right? Or sitting out in the sun in, what do they call it? In crates or, what are
It's like in pallets?
In pallets, is the word. It's sitting out in pallets, it's gonna get heated up. Of course, and if you do it and if you leave it in your car, but it's exceeding the water, maximum levels that the EPA would allow you to drink. It's exceeding them. It's called the MCL, the maximum contaminant level. So it's raising to that level, and you're buying this water literally that could be poisoned, or if you don't treat your bottled water properly, inside of that PET plastic that you buy, Smart Water, Arrowhead, whatever brand you're using, the Trader Joe's brand, it's all PET plastic. Oh, your Coke, which you probably never let get to 110 degrees sitting in your car or higher, but Coke bottles are made of it. So all these plastics and just storing there, and I'm sure with the acid in Coke, you're leaching some of this antimony. So you're getting heavy metal poisoned water. No one's talking about antimony levels in these plastic bottles. So that's kind of a new one that I'm pushing on to bring awareness, to just push people over the edge. Yeah, it's not so bad. I'm in a hurry, but I'm literally traveling with an RO system now, just because I drop shit water like Mountain Valley water, which is probably some of the safest water. And I tested Mountain Valley as well, and a lot of these waters. And I actually did the same experiment myself. I heated up in my infrared dehydrator to mimic the sun and the car, and I heated up one for 110 for 24 hours, and then one at 160 for 24 hours. And I'm running those lab results, and I'm going to release them on my Instagram page, and just trying to educate people. It's like, get away from plastic. We need to get back to glass. We need to get back to, stainless steel, true, materials that can be recycled. And here's another issue. Like, we're talking about plastics and microplastics, and we're talking about recycling. So we recycle a lot of the plastic bottles, and it still has the phthalates, and we turn it into t-shirts. We turn it into all kinds of stuff. So we're recycling, saying that this is good. We're recycling plastic. Yay, it's good for the environment. Eco-friendly fabrics. They're still plastic. They're still poison. eco-friendly but poisoning you. Yeah, maybe you saved a little bit of energy because we reused it and we didn't remove some more resources, but it took a lot of energy to recycle it, and we're still just we're transferring a poison plastic recycle bottle into poison plastic clothes that we're putting on our children. So don't recycle poison, right? Let's recycle, old wool jackets that are being thrown away and then recycle that into nice wool clothing or cotton. Let's find ways to recycle things that aren't poisonous to us. And so the recycling electronics, you know how you throw your electronics away? So they recycle electronics, and guess what they turned them into? They turned them into plastic utensils. Let's recycle someone had a great idea. This is waste, right? We don't want to pay to have it incinerated and put through filters, and because it's super toxic, because in electronics, you have to put a bunch of flame retardants in there because your electronics get really hot, right? So they put all these really toxic flame retardants that are highly bioaccumulating, that bioaccumulate like a forever chemical in your body. And they're taking the worst type of plastic you could turn into something that would be safe for food contact, and you're putting them in black plastic spatulas. Spatulas are bad to begin with. You're going to have all kinds of microplastics and phthalates and other toxic chemicals coming out of it. But now flame retardants, because you're recycling these electronics and you're getting high levels of flame retardants, and they're literally so high they can off gas and you can breathe them as you're cooking. So this recycling thing, we need to think about it from not just the environment, we have to think about it as a poison.
So I want to ask you a couple things about all that you just said. So you said you were talking about RO. For listeners that are listening that don't understand what that's reverse osmosis. So when he's talking about water, there are different ways that you can clean in your water and filter it. And one of them is called reverse osmosis. And so that is a way that you can clean a lot of your water and clean toxins out of your water. Now, the only thing I don't love about RO is that you don't necessarily get a ton of minerals in your water, but at least your water is clean. There are ways you can add minerals to your water, correct? So you have a travel RO system. Do you know what it's called?
Yeah, it's not really, it's a glass carafe, and it's by AquaTrue, and it has a glass carafe, and it has a 3-stage on the back of it, smaller. And I have bought a big bin, because I travel a lot. I get, better status, right? So I can do 70 pounds. It doesn't have to be 70 pounds. So I just place that in there. And then I actually travel with an air filter now too. And I just started doing this over the last year. So it saves me a lot of money with buying a bunch of water, but it's only like this big. So it's compact enough that it can fit in a suitcase. And I just bring it with me and fill it up and filter my water. I brush my teeth with it. I drink it. And it's not as good as, say, Mountain Valley, but it's good, right?
So this is water, like it doesn't matter. Like let's say you're going to Mexico and you're concerned about like the bacteria and things in water. Could you still RO that water and it would be safe to drink?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Just out of the tap in Mexico?
Yep. RO removes like between 94, 90%, 99% of like everything, right?
Okay.
It'll wipe out the bacteria easy. Yeah.
And then Mountain Valley water, that's the ones in the big glass bottles that are green, right?
Yeah. Don't buy the ones in plastic, but yes, the glass bottles. That's been like kind of the industry standard for a while in the health space.
And so you like Mountain Valley, you think it's a really good clean water. Is it does it have electrolytes, or is it, what is the deal with Mountain Valley? Yeah.
Yeah, it's spring water. So that's why it's good. So, and then they deliver in some areas. So you can get a glass jug and then buy a ceramic base. Actually, do I have it laying around here? I did have it here earlier, but it's missing. But that's what I used to do, but they stopped delivering in my area because I also wanted to, you get a lot of the calcium and magnesium and, just you're drinking it and you're getting a lot of good electrolytes. So I just use salt and avocado and lemon, and we can talk about that. Like some of my daily routine is drinking lemon water every morning, putting in a small pinch of Kalima sea salt. Verisalt, I just looked at their COAs. They're 65 ppb lead, but you got to watch. Like Redmond's is super high. Baja Gold even higher. Celtic sea salt, which was the sea salt of all health practitioners, has some of the highest levels of lead. So the things that you do every day, like having a Fitbit on or whatever, using salt a lot. Like, you want to make sure those have the lowest amount of microplastics. Salt can be contaminated with microplastic as well, lowest levels of heavy metals. And all these companies are now doing the testing because of customer awareness. Redmond is making all kinds of excuses, saying it's not bioavailable. Bullshit. It's a lead salt. It's probably one of the most highly bioavailable forms of lead. Now, clay, you'd probably be only 30% bioavailable, right? If it's in a clay, right? Because it can be bound inside the structure, not strongly bound, but bound enough where it's not going to be as absorbable as a lead salt, right? So the lead and salts, definitely something you want to avoid. I like, there's a couple Kalima brands. Verisalt seems clean. Jacobson Sea Salt tested 0. Probably not a lot of minerals in there, but very clean. And there's some other brands as well. So those are the ones that I go with.
Okay. So I want to talk to you too about a little bit about food. So I've seen a couple things that you've posted about coffee and chocolate and like toxic issues with that. Can you tell us about the coffee and the chocolate issues?
Yeah, chocolate, we all eat it, right? But we eat too much of it. So they just did a new study on whey proteins being contaminated, especially the plant-based, because plants sequester more heavy metals than the whey from the cow, right? So whey has less heavy metals in it. Whey has way less heavy lead, cadmium, but the plant proteins have a lot more. But if you put chocolate in, say the whey protein, now you have significant levels of lead contamination in your whey protein, because cocoa, almost all forms of cocoa, because it sequesters heavy metals from the soil, it elevates in the chocolate. And then if we eat a lot of that chocolate, we're getting some pretty high levels of exposure. So what I tell people is buy the safer brands. Dr. Bronner's comes from, now, I always mix the names up. There's South America and there's South Africa, but I believe the South African has a lesser, don't quote me on this, watch one of my videos, because I've talked about it 3 or 4 times, but that has much less lead and cadmium in it, right? So there is brands that are now saying, hey, here's our lead levels. It's not perfect, but it's some of the cleanest out there. So this is a big deal, because it's not small amounts of lead. It's a whole bunch of lead. So if you're eating chocolate, your body can handle so much lead in a day before your body can't process it, and it's going to kind of get into your bloodstream and start attacking your organs and your neurological tissue. So you have to keep the levels down. That's what Prop 65 is for, to make it less than 0.5 micrograms per day. That's why that exists, is that if you're eating lead that's less than that all day, your body, that's realistic in today's polluted environment. That's realistic, and that keeps your lead levels down enough where it's not going to hurt you. Now, your kids, they get impacted 5 times worse on lead because they absorb it 5 times more through their gut, because they're not as developed, right? So that children really need to be careful with lead, because they just absorb it at up to 5 times more. So with chocolate, just eat less or choose the chocolate. I know Dr. Bronner's, that comes from a great source. You could ask them. I haven't asked them for their COAs yet, but I've asked a lot of other companies. Let me grab a name. I can't find them right now. Darn it, I'll put it in the show notes, but there's some safer bars out there, because they're sourcing their chocolate not from all over and what's cheapest, but they source it from a specific source that's lower in lead and cadmium.
What about coffee? What is the deal with coffee?
Coffee is one of the biggest economy drivers of the world, right? There's so much coffee being sold, and because it's such and it's relatively unregulated, especially here. We don't really have regulations on the amount of mycotoxins and mold that can be in the coffee. So the junk beans a lot of times get shipped that are rejected by, say, Europe, come over to America, and then we roast them, and then we say, hey, we roast them, it kills the mold, but it doesn't kill the mycotoxins. So the mycotoxins remain, and the mycotoxins are, it's not a mold allergy. It's the toxin that mold produces is what's detrimental to your body. And we're talking high levels, because they're not being properly stored. They're in a bag. They're getting moldy. They're not dried right away. So you have to choose a company that tests for mycotoxins, and also test when you cook the bean too much, it produces a carcinogen. as well. So you have to be careful, and good companies test for that. There is regulations for that in the US, that you need to get the companies that are really stringent. What are they called? Acrylamides. So they do acrylamide testing. So a good organic coffee company will be mycotoxin free, almost acrylamide free, very, very low levels of acrylamides. If you burn your toast, that creates a lot of acrylamides, believe it or not. If you burn any type of carbohydrate, that creates a lot of acrylamides. So when you're making your toast, don't burn it. These are just little tricks you can do. Again, we're tough, we're strong. We can handle this stuff, a little bit of mycotoxins, a little bit of acrylamides, but when you add it all up, it becomes significant. So knowing how to properly cook your food, knowing how to properly, and a chef would tell you this. He's like, oh, you don't want to burn that. That's going to make it toxic. Like, some chefs understand this because they're taught that in school, but we're not being taught that. So I'm starting a cooking show that I'm doing once a month, long form on YouTube, and I'll add it to my podcast, but just teaching how to cook food so you're not poisoning yourself. Talking about acrylamides, how do you cook meat properly so that it also can produce toxins if you burn it, right? So not properly cooking your food also is an issue. So with chocolate, we're going back to, coffee, you want to find mycotoxin free, if they're testing for acrylamides, and they're actually testing for heavy metals as well. And there's many companies out there that are doing that. So you can find safe coffee. Corn is going to have it as well. Most of the grains, if not treated properly and they get moldy, they produce these mycotoxins. So you have to be careful. Most corn's not a superfood. I like some of the corn chips out there. I eat a few, but it's not a great alternative to carbs, and it can have mycotoxins in it. Do I eat chips that are cooked in tallow? They ship them to me all the time. I have a stack of them. And I might eat one bag, in 3 months. But corn chips are another thing because I know they're just mycotoxins. I like them. I eat them. I love Mexican. But I'm just saying, try to lessen that toxic load by making smart choices.
So to summarize what I got from coffee, it needs to be mycotoxin free, acrylamide free, and ideally heavy metal free. And then as far as chocolate, we just want to make sure, again, there's not a lot of lead in there. And cadmium. So lead and cadmium free. Okay. So.
Or low levels. You're never going to get it free. It's impossible.
I know that. Okay. So I know that we've talked about a lot of stuff, and I'm sure people are like, oh my God, what am I supposed to eat? What am I supposed to do? And so what we're going to do is make sure that we link all of your stuff in the show notes so people can go follow you. I know you have a lot of great videos, so you guys need to go follow him on social media. He does have this docuseries that he's working on as well, The Homesick Home. He's got a YouTube channel. And so we'll make sure that you guys can connect with him because, I could talk to him for 5 hours, and he's not telling you don't do anything. He's just saying be intelligent about what you're choosing. And to his point, like, if we are smart as Americans with our dollars and we demand better out of companies, then we will get those things. Because I agree with him. 10 years ago, I haven't eaten gluten for probably over 10 years. And when I first stopped eating gluten, you couldn't find it anywhere. And now that's like almost becoming like the norm, right? Now, the other problem with that is we're putting other crap in our food. That's a whole nother discussion. But you can fix things like this by what you choose, because they're not going to make things if you don't buy those things. So we'll make sure that we link all of that. So I appreciate you giving us this high level view on some things. I have some great takeaways that I've learned. I want to wrap this up by asking you the 3 questions that I ask every single guest. So don't overthink them, but I'm curious to know what your answers are. So the first question is, what is one food that is the most beneficial for you and why? If you have to pick one food.
I have many. Here's the one though, and I would consider it a food: olive oil, single origin, organic, in a glass jar, olive oil. That's fresh, high levels of polyphenols. And I'll tell you why. Just doing about 2 teaspoons a day is going to reduce all-cause mortality, all causes of death, degenerative conditions that we all face, cancer, heart disease, you name it. Overall 30% reduction, right? It also contains a compound. It contains another compound at high levels as well that acts as a massive anti-inflammatory, working on the COX-1, COX-2 pathway, just like ibuprofen. So it reduces inflammation and pain. So it's a anti-pain medication essentially because of this compound that it has. So it has all those benefits. Plus, is giving you all those healthy fats that your body needs, and it's not going to throw you out of balance. So give me one food right now that I'm really honed in on. It's olive oil. I'm doing a lot of it. I'm putting on everything. Another trick with olive oil is that even though it has, you can put it in your pan and saute in it, it's still, and it'll be protected because of all the antioxidants in it. So it's not going to turn it necessarily rancid, but you destroyed a lot of the benefits that I just talked about by heating it even at low temperatures. So just put it on after. So saute in coconut oil or ghee or butter that's a saturated fat that can handle the heat. That's not being denatured, not destroying the vitamins and minerals and, you know, the antioxidants in it, because it's just the saturated fat. It's not going to destroy the arachidonic acid and some of the other benefits that are in these oils. And then afterwards, put olive oil on at the end. Put that on at the end. Saute in oils that don't denature. And olive oil is one of them. Even avocado oil, higher smoke point, but you're going to denature a lot of the good stuff that's in it as well. So you can still do it, but if you want the benefits of the olive oil and avocado oil, there you have it. So, and believe it or not, there's forever chemicals in olive oil as well. So that happens in manufacturing. If it gets, you know, so any of the cold pressed, anything that's cold, if it's heated, like coconut oil, for example, if it's expeller pressed, it gets hot. And if it touches plastic, it's getting contaminated with phthalates, right? So try to get things in glass bottles that's cold, so we're not leaching these toxic plastics, whether it's in the manufacturing or storing other oils, whether it's avocado oil, coconut oil, or olive oil.
Yeah, I agree. So I think oleic acid is what the olive oil has in it. That's really good for you. But I don't cook with olive oil either, because it can somewhat change the bonds, but it just gets rid of all the bad or the good things that olive oil does for you, right? And I have a patient who's from Palestine, and she gives me olive oil that's made in Palestine at her house. She makes it at her house in Palestine, and she brings it to me in these giant glass bottles. It's amazing. And I put it on my eggs every morning. It's so good.
You're super blessed because you don't have forever chemicals. You have nothing. It's
so good. I know. I love her. She's amazing. So the next question I have for you is, what is one thing that anyone can do for their health that's completely free?
I can give them like 5. I just did a video on it, but the one that I think is most science-based, that is going to be the most powerful, especially in today's environment, especially how we live our lives, is definitely grounding. And everyone says that most people in the world don't understand that this is a very science-based thing to do, connecting us to the Earth's energy and getting fed antioxidants from the ground, these positive ions, right? Then in the discharge of the bad ones that we collect being around electricity, we're batteries, and we're collecting bad energy that are oxidative to our body. As soon as you put your feet on the ground, you discharge all that and you recharge with the antioxidants that the earth, we're meant to be walking on the earth. We're meant to be connected with nature. We're in divine synergy with nature. That's why I like, I used to think he was over the top, but he is a freaking genius. Zach Bush. I just really respect him more and more because he's been speaking about this stuff before it started to become mainstream. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought you were crazy and did too many, maybe too many mushroom journeys and you weren't connected to the, whatever, right? But this guy is on fire. So if you want to learn about divine synergy, he's a great resource and a great human because that's his jam. That's not my jam. I'm Nontoxic Dad. But if you really want to learn about that, but grounding is something that has transformed my life. You'll sleep better. It decreases your risk of heart disease. It gives you energy. If you're tired during the middle of the day and you're fatigued, especially if you're live in a nice area that's warm, just instead of drinking coffee, go outside, take a walk in the sun with your bare feet, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, all my energy is back. Why? You got more oxygen. You got sunshine. You told your body that you're awake. Your eyes told you that you're awake and alive and ready to do work instead of being in toxic LED lighting that's telling you should go to sleep, that's poisoning your body. Like my eyesight my family has great eyesight. My eyesight is now trashed. I have myopia. I have astigmatism. It was causing me chronic headaches. I had to get stinking glasses. I improved my eyesight doing a lot of like the red light therapy. I was doing all these things using Brown's gas and putting on my eyes hydrogen and oxygen. I actually moved my eyesight up a quarter point by doing those things, but I had to do the emergency just like many of us do with a surgery or get glasses, and these things are plastic, and I feel horrible as non-toxic dad wearing these things, but my headaches are now gone. So there's a time and a place to use technology, but man, get outside, get grounded, stop taking aspirin, right? And do olive oil, do lemon, do electrolytes. Avocados have, I'm going off again. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Dr. Cassie.
We gotta do one.
Yeah. So I'm done. Grounding. Move on.
Okay, so grounding. So put your body on the earth. So that I like that one. Last question is, what is one thing that you wish you would have known about your health 20 years ago that you would have done differently? So if you would have known today if you knew today 20 years ago what you know now, what would you do to change your health differently 20 years ago?
20 years ago to today. 20 years ago, I just got into this, so I had many things. What would I wished I would have fast tracked? It's a great question. I kind of knew about mercury fillings then. I wish. What do I know? What did I wish I know? Let's talk about. I would say magnetic fields and electric fields. And the reason why some of these can be deadly and cause cancer in us and our children, and they're a cause of these things, and it's become, it's kind of been kind of suppressed, but a lot of these studies are gonna come out now that these electric fields and magnetic fields are horrible for our body. So that means I wish I knew that I don't want to be sleeping, have my head next to the refrigerators on the other side of the wall, right? Or my kids is beds next to a smart meter on the other side of the wall, or their head's not right next to an electric socket. But I knew about how toxic these magnetic fields, say from a refrigerator compressor or a fan, or those put out magnetic fields, or the electric fields that come from an outlet, and what those can do to our health, how it affects our sleep, and how it's linked to cancer. Because I had my kids, some of them, their head, their bed's up against the wall and the outlet's right next to their head, and that electric field is looking for a ground, and it's smashing their body all night long, causing oxidative stress. These frequency poisons are something you don't see or think about. And in Europe, they do. Of course, they have a different frequency that's not as toxic to your body. But once again, America has changed things.
Europe. Okay. Maybe we should all just, no, I'm kidding. I digress. Italy has gluten or has wheat that doesn't bother you as well if you have celiac. So they've got a lot of things figured out in Europe, but
I just got my Italian citizenship. I claimed it through my grandfather. Me and my children are now Italian citizens, and
that's cool.
And I want to go over there and learn from them. That's one of the things I want to do in my podcasts, and I want to learn some of these ancient traditions of food making and living healthy and family. Yes, they drink alcohol, it's poison, but they're living longer because they have community and family. And I just feel so disconnected. I don't know about you, but I just want to connect to humanity again and get back to the ancient ways and some of these tribal ways and ways of family. Kind of like when I was growing up, I really missed that. I feel like we're in a silo. Have you ever watched the movie Silo?
Yep.
But so I feel like I'm just so disconnected from everybody, and I want to get connected, and that needs to happen in America, I think, for us to heal. Because if we're connecting in community and in farms, we're not judging each other, and we're not living in these focused mindsets that everyone else is wrong and we're right. We all have good things to share. We all have great solutions and answers, but we're so pigeonholed and angry right now. And I think community is the answer. Regenerative farming's part of that, just in finding ways to connect. So I want to learn those skills and start passing those on in the next generations.
I completely agree. Well, thank you very much for joining us on this episode of Back to the Basics. If you guys listen to this and you think any of this would be beneficial to anyone, So anyone that breathes or drinks water or lives on this planet needs to listen to this podcast, and they need to follow him. So make sure that you share this with people, please. Make sure you're following us so you get every episode. Make sure you leave us a review. I appreciate the reviews. I like to know, do you like this? Do you appreciate it? And then join us next week on the next episode, and we'll make sure that all of Warren's stuff are in the show notes. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
The information presented, including any materials discussed, referenced, or linked within this podcast, are for general educational purposes only, not the practice of medicine. No doctor-patient relationship is formed from you listening to this podcast or utilizing any of the information provided. I am a doctor, but I am not talking to you as your doctor. The information provided is not intended to diagnose or treat health problems, or take the place of the professional medical care provided by your doctor. If you are experiencing any health problems, including problems you believe have been touched upon in any respect within this podcast, you should consult your doctor about the problems without delay. You may ask your doctor whether he or she believes the information I have provided would be helpful to you, but you should still consult your doctor immediately and follow his or her medical advice as your treating physician. I'm just here to provide you basic knowledge about the issues we discuss so you are more aware of them and can better discuss them with your doctor. That's why we call it Back to the Basics. Join me on the next episode as we continue our journey.